Hello, everyone. My name is Katenlynn Renteria, and I am so very excited to have been invited by the Mayor Joe V. Sanchez Public Library of Weslaco to speak a little bit to the teens, tweens, and young adults of the Mayor Joe V. Sanchez Public Library community and to read a short excerpt of my novel, The Other Side of the Law. So, The Other Side of the Law is a young adult fiction novel about a Texas girl. You see her on the street, she's just your average teenager, but in secret, she's a spy. So she goes all over the world on these crazy adventures and missions, catching bad guys, taking names, all that fun stuff. And to give you a little bit of background on The Other Side of the Law, it's actually a pretty interesting story. So I actually wrote this book when I was 14 years old, finished it when I was 15, published it at 16. It was the Silver Award recipient from Literary Classics Book Awards when I was 17, and now I am 20 years old, still going strong, doing virtual events, story times, read-alongs, being able to engage with you all, the audience, and share my book and share my story. And I think a testament to all the work that's been put into making The Other Side of the Law real. And, I just love being able to have these talks and these story times and engage with the audience however I can. And the bottom line moral of the story is that if you are a writer and if you love to write, if you love to read, or even if you just have a passion for something, maybe it's music or sports or science or anything that you're interested in, pursue it and persevere and don't ever give up. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what obstacles may go along the way. There have been plenty of ups and downs in The Other Side of the Law's journey and my own journey, but you'll never know what's on the other side and what successes you will find if you keep going, keep persevering, and keep making your dreams happen. So I'm once again very excited for the Mayor Joe V. Sanchez Public Library to have invited me to speak a little bit. And without further ado, we will go ahead and begin a short little excerpt reading of The Other Side of the Law. I will be sharing the prologue with you and chapter 1 as well. So I'm very excited to be sharing a little bit of the story. Hopefully it's a fun, interesting read, and we can go ahead and get started. So I present to you The Other Side of the Law, award-winning young adult fiction novel by myself, Katenlynn Renteria. The Other Side of the Law. And we begin with the prologue. Like a raindrop on velvet, I silently dropped from a dusty airshaft to the floor of Spade's Enterprises, clad in navy and shrouded in the dark. I glanced around the tech lab I had landed in, knowing that a door was 32 feet to my left, thanks to the building blueprints I had memorized 16 hours earlier. Almost subconsciously, I began to carry out my mission, silently gliding across the floor to the main computer at the back of the computer lab. I unclipped a mini flashlight from my utility belt, shone it on the desktop, and switched on the PC. While the computer warmed up, I slipped a USB drive out of my pocket and held it millimeters away from the port I was going to plug it into. I counted down how much time I had before the left-wing security guard came into the lab for a routine check. 64 seconds. Plenty of time. The second the computer's lock screen came up, I plugged in the USB drive. I watched expectantly as the screen went from displaying Spade Enterprises logo to an array of speeding numbers on a green background. I smiled as the algorithm on the drive unlocked the computer and pilfered through the files, picking out any of particular interest. While the USB drive was working its magic, I began to search the drawers for any folders or documents that would provide any vital information. Oddly, the drawers were filled with pens, paper clips, calculators, and other generic office supplies. Yet there were no folders or documents in sight. I carefully stripped a paper off of a sticky notes pad, folded it, and slipped it into my pocket, as a souvenir. My internal clock told me that 38 seconds remained before the guard came in, and as if on cue, the computer screen flashed brightly. The USB drive had done its job, and I knew that it had copied files and erased any potential digital fingerprints of mine with efficiency. With 22 seconds left, I had unplugged the USB, turned off the computer, and made my way to the air shaft I had popped out from. I unclipped a rope and hook from my belt, and I threw it up to the shaft. The hook sailed through the opening, attached to the frame, and I began to pull myself up. Once I was safely in the shaft, I rolled up my rope and hook and clipped it back onto my belt. No sooner had I placed the cover of the shaft back onto the opening, the guard opened the door and stepped into the room. Mission accomplished. Chapter 1. It doesn't take a genius to know that often there's more than meets the eye. Every book has a story behind its unique cover. All facial expressions have a hidden thought buried beneath. Nothing is exactly what it seems, except for the things that are. It takes a skilled eye to tell the difference between the two. My school is the type of facility that seems like your average run-of-the-mill joint middle and high school, yet it is so much more. At my school, students are trained to be able to look behind the cover and see what lies underneath, even if it means putting on a cover of their own. What else would you expect from a school for spies? Or at least the part of the school that actually teaches spy-related things. The thing about Henderson High is that it really and truly is a school, with kids ranging from 6th to 12th grade learning your normal subjects like algebra, biology, world history, and physical education. But the thing that makes Henderson High special is its ability to hide in plain sight, with its unique students learning even more unique skills. If you take advanced courses or AP classes like me, then you're in for subjects like dialects and calligraphy of the world, DCW, where 16 different languages are taught, learned, and spoken. Covert Field Operations, CFO, is another one of my courses, where students learn the art of being a spy in the field, including all 856 different ways to spy on a person using a reflective surface. The rest of the school learns the normal curriculum, just like every other school in the nation. The only catch is, the normal students have absolutely no idea what goes on behind the closed doors of the advanced classes. It's the best part of hiding in plain sight. Spy kids at Henderson get the best of both worlds, without the hefty paperwork and fake IDs. We get those senior year. Most spy kids at Henderson are aiming for a career following the field course, FC, where some serious butt-kicking and world-saving goes down on a daily basis. But working in the field isn't the only option. There's also the Technical Operation course, TOC, of study, where the more brainy of the spy breed learn to manipulate technology and work behind the scenes, the exact opposite of field agents. However, there is an option that combines the two, the Covert Field Research course, CFRC. This is what I'm currently taking. Spies on this course of study learned how to hack and smack. We can manipulate any piece of technology handed over to us, from satellites to BlackBerry phones. On top of that, we get the rush of hunting down bad guys in the field. Life at Henderson can be stressful, especially with the surplus of assignments, projects, and extracurricular activities each student has to take care of. But there is one time a day where all that stress can just completely fade away in a few intense minutes. PE. I remember one of our more competitive days when everyone took turns on a single indoor obstacle course to see who could take the #1 spot that week. Last week, it was a tie between James Peters and I. The #1 spot usually fluctuated between us. As soon as our coach started the timer, I hit the ground running as I twisted, vaulted, and cartwheeled through an intricate net of lasers. Don't worry, these lasers were just normal lights. The real lasers come junior year. Once I made it through the last one, I ran at full speed towards a metal wall that was timed to close in approximately 15.25 seconds. My feet pounded on the pavement floor of our colossal gymnasium as I keyed in security codes on my holographic wrist manipulator watch, or HoloWatch for short. The metal door in front of me was about to close, and my shot at an A was growing thinner with every centimeter the door shut. I punched in a string of code, and the door stopped closing just long enough for me to slide under and make it across to the other side. "Nice work, Miss Verdant," my PE instructor, Mrs. Oslo, said. "Let's see if you can scale the wall." I kept running as fast as I could towards a towering mountain of plastic rock, which I leapt onto and began to climb as fast as possible without taking a painful fall. Some of the hand and footholds crumbled as I grabbed them, and I had to keep my reflexes on high alert to grab for a sturdy one. Once I made it to the top, I braced myself for what was coming. "Mr. Cho, you're on," Mrs. Oslo bellowed to the assistant coach. Not a second after she said that, a gust of wind stronger than all the fans in the school combined came at me, raging and wanting to ruin my chance at the top spot. I held my ground and tried as hard as I could to maintain my balance. This test of endurance was always my least favorite of the bunch. I had to go against the wind and make it to a rope at the end of the wall, which I could then use to make my way down the fake mini mountain and be one step closer to claiming my place as the victor. I dropped down onto my knees and began crawling towards the rope. My limited body space caused the majority of the wind to slide right off of me, but the rest kept coming, and it showed no sign of letting up. My palms dug into the fake rocks as I tried to get a good grip and keep from flying away like a tumbleweed. Eventually, I made it to the rope, but not without a few close calls and lots of hair in my face. "Come on, Kay, you got this!" my best friend Scarlett screamed from 55 feet below me. Scarlett was about 2 inches taller than me, with long, jet black hair and brown eyes. Her favorite color in the world was purple, and it was apparent in almost every article of clothing and object she owned. She was a good student who absolutely loved kicking butt in the field. There was no one I would rather have as my best friend. I attempted a thumbs up at her support, but got a painful slap of wind on my hand instead, so I made a promise to myself to thank her afterwards. A few more crawling steps, and I had finally made it to the rope. In 6 quick leaps, I was back on solid, non-windy ground. For my final challenge, I had to pole vault over a very high bar onto a semi-soft mat. What fun. I plucked a pole from the pile and raced towards the bar. I had to time my vault just right, and when I twisted to land on my back, I had to be in the proper position. Once I knew in my head that it was time to vault, I did it with grace and ease, twisting so that my back faced the mat and so I wouldn't hit the bar on the way down. Once I hit the mat and jumped up on my feet, my run was over. "Time!" Coach Oslo yelled. "How long?" she asked Mr. Cho. He glanced at the stopwatch in his hand from where he stood by the wind switch and announced, 5 minutes, 8 seconds. "Yes!" I yelled. "That's a new record!" "It certainly is, Miss Verdant," Coach Oslo said proudly. "And the first go of the day, too. Well done." I beamed as I walked over to the bleachers and gulped down my orange Gatorade, tremendously proud of my accomplishment. "Great job out there," James Peters told me as he passed by. "But don't get too comfortable. You're not the only one who's ever broken a course record." He grinned at me. I smiled back. "I'll keep that in mind." "Good luck," I replied. James was a tall guy with dimples and wavy black hair. He had the slightest hint of arrogance in him, enough for it to be apparent, but not too much to be annoying. Most of the time, anyway. He excelled in PE and took pride in the skills he exhibited in the gym. He loved to show off. "Thanks, but I don't think I'll need it," he called over his shoulder as he jogged to his place at the starting position. I rolled my eyes and continued to drink my Gatorade. James really was a cool guy, but his ego was bound to get him into trouble someday. Everyone at Henderson knew that, even the 6th graders. But when the day comes that he does get into trouble because of it, we'll all be there for him. That's just the way we kids were at Henderson, spies or no spies. I watched as James ran the course almost flawlessly. He almost fell face first into a particularly high laser. And in the end, his time was 5 minutes, 10 seconds. "No!" he shouted, kicking at the floor with his sneakers. 2 seconds? Are you kidding me? I smothered a laugh from my spot on the bleachers and continued enjoying my wonderful orange drink. As I took a breather, I watched the different grade levels and their different PE exercises. The 8th graders were fencing each other in the left corner while defending a box that was behind them, trying to make it close enough to their opponent's box to snatch it. The freshmen were practicing shooting crossbows in a boxed-off area at the right corner of the gym, and I could tell from all the arrows stuck in the unbreakable glass that some kids still needed a lot of practice. James wandered over to the bleacher and took his usual spot at the very top. A little while after he sat down, Scarlett came over, bright-faced and cheery. 6 minutes even, she told me through heavy breaths. "That's good, right?" "It's great," I replied, handing over her special PE towel. "And thanks for the encouragement, by the way." Scarlett smiled. "What are best friends for?" I grinned back. Soon, more kids who had run through the course claimed their own spot on the bleachers, and once everyone had run through, Coach Oslo walked with the final kid to the bleachers. "Listen up, soaps," she yelled. Soaps are what she called us sophomores. "Tomorrow we'll be starting a new unit. Unit 21, Defensive Maneuvers in Motion. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow we play soccer." A couple of boys cheered at her announcement, while some girls groaned in response. "Oh, come on, it's not that bad. Just a friendly game of soccer with some offensive slides, steals, and flying tackles thrown in here and there." "Great," one boy said sarcastically. "I can go home with cleat scars on my shin." "Those are called battle scars, my friend. They're just a part of the job," Coach said in reply. She glanced at her watch, waited a few seconds, then blew her silver whistle. "Class dismissed! Clean up and have a great day," she bellowed to everyone in the gym. No sooner had she yelled that last word, everyone jumped up and scrambled to get ready for the incoming PE class. Obstacle courses were disabled, and the obstacles sunk underneath the floor. Helmets were stocked in high-security cabinets hidden behind a secret hoax wall. Equipment was stuffed into their designated crates and then hauled off into the gigantic chest with 3 separate locks held by 3 separate coaches and coach assistants. All of this was done to make sure the normal students wouldn't accidentally stumble upon the laser grid and unravel the secrets of their gifted students. Like I said earlier, Henderson spies get the best of both worlds. While the coaches quadruple checked that the students didn't forget any security protocols, that would mean detention for the entire grade, the rest of us scampered off to the locker rooms to change and set off for our next classes. I was already packing up the last of my things in my backpack when Susie Lawrence bounded up to me. "So, Kay," Susie drawled while snapping her gum, "you totally kicked butt on the obstacle course today." "Thanks, Susie," I replied. "I really tried today." Susie twirled a piece of her hair as she said, "But once you came down the rope, your hair was completely messed up, beyond belief." She looked at me, waiting for my response. "Yeah, I know," I replied. "A giant fan with more power than a jet engine will do that to a person. Your own hair didn't look so hot after your run either, After that, Susie shaped her mouth into a little "oh" and stared at me blankly. "I was just trying to let you know so you wouldn't be embarrassed, but then you go all off on me for no reason at all." And with that, Susie turned on her heel and marched off toward her locker, blowing a bubble along the way. "She seems to be in a good mood," Scarlett chimed. "Yep, she didn't say anything about my hideous choice of footwear this time," I replied, quoting Susie's opinion on my tennis shoes that she so kindly shared with me last week. "Forget about her. You know that if you're in a jam tomorrow, Susie will be right there beside you to help you out, and the other way around too," Scarlett said as she stuffed the last of her clothes into her gym locker. "True," I replied, thinking that she had read my mind about James. And the reality is, that was true. No matter how we treat each other at Henderson, we'll always be there for one another, no matter what. That's what makes the Henderson Spy program so successful. We never give up on our fellow peers. Even if those peers happen to love chewing gum and twirling their blonde hair with perfectly manicured fingers. Once Scarlett and I were all packed up, we set out for AP Chemistry, the PhD version. We were getting our books out of our adjacent lockers as the halls flooded with high school students. They all scampered off towards their next class, the non-spies completely oblivious to the new course record that had just been set on a military-grade obstacle course the period before. "Kay! Scarlett!" a voice from 25 paces behind us called. Instinctively, Scarlett and I glanced at the closest reflective surface, but then remembered that the hall was filled with normal high school teens. There was no need to go into spy mode there, so we turned towards the voice instead. "Hey, Ted!" I called back, raising my hand in a wave at the boy approaching us. In approximately 4.13 seconds, Ted Matthews had closed the space between Scarlett and I and himself as he bounded up to us. Ted was of average height with light brown hair and equally light brown eyes. He had had a crush on Scarlett since 7th grade, but he was too scared to make a move. Scarlett claimed that Ted's crush was non-existent, but she knew deep down that it was real. Ted was a sweet guy, if a little awkward at times. "Guess what day it is?" Ted asked, a loopy grin plastered on his freckled face. "Wait, don't tell me." "Tuesday?" Scarlett taunted as she slipped her chemical processes and you textbook into her backpack. "Well, yeah, but no. Mr. Needlemeyer promised something extra science-y today, but no one knows what it is. Do y'all have any idea?" Ted asked. I pressed my lips together and thought as I closed my locker and set off for AP Chemistry. Maybe we're finally going to be making that special fluid for that thing we learned about last week. Mr. Needlemeyer had taught us about an ancient potion made from apple juice and the honey of a rare bee that will put anyone, and I mean anyone, to sleep instantly. I'm talking Sleeping Beauty, like sleep. It wore off after 24 hours, but even after a drop was sipped, you were out cold. Maybe. I could practically see the gears in Ted's head spin and churn as he thought this theory over. But I'm not sure. "Well, I guess we're about to find out, aren't we?" Scarlett said as she reached for the handle of the chem lab door and pulled. What I saw before me was something I totally wasn't expecting. "Please take your seats as we wait for the rest of the class, Miss Verdant, Miss Clare, and Mr. Matthews. You won't want to waste a millisecond of your time for what I have planned for today," Mr. Needlemeyer said as he leaned against his desk. In a leather jacket, and leather pants, and leather boots, complete with a leather bandana around his neck, and black sunglasses on top of his head. I think it goes without saying that this was the last thing I expected to see walking into chem today. Within the next 2 minutes and 16 seconds, the entire 4th period sophomore chemistry class was seated and anxious for today's lesson. Whatever it was, it had to be interesting for Mr. Needlemeyer to be clad in 90% leather. Ladies and gentlemen, today we learn the art of skill, strategy, and finesse when transporting a critical substance across the city. Ladies and gentlemen, today we create that critical substance using nothing but the materials found in the uppermost left cabinet. Ladies and gentlemen, the formal instructions to your assignments can be found in the bottom right drawer of my desk. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you good luck. And with that, Mr. Niedermeyer slipped his black shades on and began to head for the exit. Wait, Ted called out to our teacher, halting him in his abandonment attempt. Yes, Mr. Matthews, Mr. Niedermeyer asked, clearly impatient. I mean no disrespect, sir, but, why are you dressed like that? Ted wrung his hands together as he awaited our teacher's response. Mr. Niedermeyer simply smiled and continued walking out the door as he said, because I'm the one you need to keep the substance away from. This was just a taste of the different disguises I have up my sleeve. Out there, I could be anyone. He closed the door behind him as he called over his shoulder, have fun. It was shaping up to be your typical Tuesday afternoon at Henderson High. And that was the prologue and chapter 1 of The Other Side of the Law. So I hope you enjoyed the little sneak peek into The Other Side of the Law and a glimpse into the main character, Kay Verdant's mind, a kickoff to the adventures that are to lie in wait as you continue to read the book. And once again, I would just like to thank the Mayor Joe V. Sanchez Public Library of Weslaco for inviting me to speak to the teens, tweens, and young adults of their community. And once again, my message to anyone watching this video, anyone interested in writing or reading or something that you're passionate about, whether it be literary or not, is that no matter what, keep that passion in your heart growing. Keep that little spark and turn it into a fire and let it burn and let it grow and just continue to persevere. If you have something in your heart that you're passionate about, something you want to do, something you want to accomplish, something that you think might not be possible because of things like where you come from or who you are or how old you are, or how hard it might be down the road, absolutely keep persevering and keep trying and never, ever, ever stop dreaming or think anything is unattainable. You are you. You believe in yourself. You keep trying and keep going and keep learning and keep advancing until you get to your goal and you're able to celebrate all the hard work you put in and know that you did this because you're passionate. And again, it doesn't matter how long it may take. It doesn't matter how hard it might be along the way. Finally reaching the end of that summit and being able to say, I did it, is one of the most amazing feelings in the world. So thank you once again. And hope to see you next time at the Mayor Joe V. Sanchez Public Library of Weslaco. Bye.